Can you do roll call, please?
Sure can. Mr. Silva,
Here.
Mr. Guy,
Yeah.
Mr. Winterhalter,
Here.
Mr. Evans,
Here.
Mr. Edwards, Ms. McGowan,
Here.
Township Engineer is also present, your co-director.
Thank you. I will start with a short moment of silence and then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any members have any comments on the agenda?
No.
Nope, all good? So then we have minutes from September 26th. Anybody have any comments, amendments, or is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor of approving the minutes as is, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Approved. Okay, so the first step tonight is the conditional use review, 4605 West Chester Pike. Make sure to turn your microphone on, Tim.
And a personnel lists and have names that present this evening.
Oh, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, members of the planning commission. Again, my name is Don Petrosner, representing Joyful Newtown Village LP, the owner of about 56 acres of land at 4605 West Chester Pike in a C2 zoning district. You will recall that the property is located along West Chester Pike in the interior of Alice Grimm Boulevard, loop road known as Alice Grimm Boulevard. The subject of the current conditional use and land development applications is a proposed logistics center for Boron, a well-known manufacturer and distributor of homeopathic medicines on about 5.9 acres of the tract. We appear before you on August 22nd, 2024, and discuss the project. Following the August meeting, our team went to work on trying to address the comments we received. We made a resubmission on September 25th, 2024, and received an updated review letter dated October 18th, 2024 from the township engineer, which we will be addressing tonight. I prepared the personnel list that I've handed up to you. It identifies who will be making a presentation to the planning commission, and I try to keep them in the order that I anticipate will call on the people. So just to introduce them, who's going to testify for benefit of people in the audience as well. The first person we're going to call is Nicole DeBaton Robinson, who is a representative of ownership. She has some brief remarks to make. And next will be Fabrice Filiolini, Vice President of Operations at Boron USA. He will tell you a little bit more about Boron and its connection to the Newtown Square community. Our third presenter will be Chris Williams, who's the regional manager for the Mid-Atlantic region for Bowman Traffic and Transportation Engineers. The next presenter, our fourth presenter, is Dottie Ives Dewey, who is a land planner. She has, just to give you a brief bio, she has a very long bio, but she's got a BA in civil engineering from Lafayette College. She has a master's in urban and regional planning from the University of Southern California and a PhD in city and regional planning from the University of Pennsylvania. She's a professor of planning at West Chester University, has worked as a planning consultant for some well-known firms in the area, Thomas Committa Associates, Black and Thomas at Panzac, and she's a former chairperson of the Radnor Township Planning Commission. Dottie will address compliance with the standards and criteria for conditional use approval in Newtown Township's ordinance. I think this is one of the issues that Paul wanted to get to at the last meeting. So Dottie's going to write down the standards and criteria and address those. And then our final presenter that I anticipate will be Rick Stratton, who's Director of Engineering at Chester Valley Engineers. He will address the revised plans and address the review comments we've received from the township engineer. I do want to say, as you'll recall, one of the big issues, or probably the biggest issue, I think, at the August meeting was the riparian buffer. At the time, we were proposing a 40-foot riparian buffer, and the requirement was 50 feet, and we've now managed to get the 50-foot riparian buffer, as Rick will discuss in his presentation. With that, unless you have any questions of me, I would like to call on Nicole and Tom Robinson to address you.
Would you like?
You can either one. Where you want to do it here? Okay. Is
All right.
that okay?
Would you like me to go here or over there?
Wherever you like.
Yeah, it's up to you. Yeah.
Right here. Thank you. Hi, I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight and would like to address some concerns. Last month, misinformation circulated claiming that our project would destroy the Veterans Memorial. I want to clarify that my family is the developer of the memorial, and it is a sacred space which we deeply respect. We would never harm it. It represents our love of country and our belief that veterans must always be honored. That was throughout social media after the interview. I'm proud to have several veterans here with me tonight. Marine Corps veteran Joe Daly, Air Force veteran Ralph Galati, Army veteran Mike Lynch, and Coast Guard veteran Joe Curley. Their presence shows our shared commitment to the memorial. Additionally, we've submitted a new application for a recreation facility next to the Boron Logistics Center. After seeing the renderings of Boron's new logistics center, the owner chose to build his facility right next to the building. It will be a racket sports center designed to bring more community engagement and wellness opportunities to Newtown Township. As a family business, we not only focus on developing our relationships with our current tenants, such as Boron, to keep them in our community, but we also seek to bring new tenants who create spaces that enrich our community. I hope tonight that you'll see that our efforts are for the good of our township. Thank you.
What kind of racket sports?
So there'll be pickleball, there'll be padel, and there'll be squash,
And again, there will be where exactly?
right next door to the Boron building.
Just to the east of the
Are
Boron.
they on the plan?
No, that we're not
It's a
here
separate
tonight for
development.
that. I
Oh.
just wanted to share with you so that
Additional plans.
additional, we've already filed for it with the township, but that out of the whole, they chose to be right there, and that I just wanted to share that with you.
Who's the operator?
There is a separate application that just
Right.
came in like a
Right.
week ago to the
Got it.
township.
Yeah.
That will be the subject of further review.
And it was a conditional use application. Recreational uses are permitted in this district if they're indoor by right, if they're outdoor by conditional use.
Thank you.
Who's the operator?
What's his formal name? I mean, I can say
Sunil?
Sunil Desai, but I don't know what
Sunil
his
Desai.
Oh, I know. Sunil.
operating name is. He's a veteran of our community and he's incredible. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So, Bruce, you're next.
Thanks. Member of the Planning Commission, good evening. My name is Fabrice Figuerini. I'm the VP of Operation for Bois. I've been with the company for the past 17 years. I'm also a proud Newtown Square resident where I've been living for the past 13 years. I'd like to give you a quick intro and provide some clarification, kind of what Nicole did about the meeting that we had in late August in front of this committee. I feel personally that the conversations that we had that night were positive and constructive. And we will show you tonight that we heard the comments and concerns that were brought up by this commission and by some of the residents. I feel like we addressed all of them with the different participants that are going to be here tonight speaking in front of you. And I'm excited for you guys to hear what they have to say. As for the backlash that happened after the August meeting, as it relates to some of the falsehoods that were reporting by the media, I feel that we addressed a lot of them on our website. I left a piece of paper at the front. If anyone has any additional questions, I think we listed all the bullet points one by one and kind of debunking a lot of the falsehoods that were actually mentioned on the video and the Fox 29 website. Bois has been in Newtown Square for the past 30 years, employing close to 100 people in the Delaware Valley. Our main mission is to provide quality medicines to patients and consumers for various symptoms and conditions. We have been a strong community partner for many years within Newtown Square by endorsing many initiatives, sponsoring events, helping associations, and being a leader in green initiatives throughout the Delaware County. This project has been long thought out, and the decision to stay in Newtown Square is one that we didn't take lightly. We want our employees to stay in Newtown Square, and we are hoping to remain involved in the community. In addition to creating jobs, this logistics center is designed as a state-of-the-art facility with very low impact on the environment. We are eager to share with you tonight some of the tweaks and modifications that we made with the constraints that we have. And we are here to hear your feedback. Our goal is to show that we continue to be a good community partner, and I'm hoping that we will be able to prove to you that once again tonight. If anyone has any additional questions, again, the document is at the back of the room. I'm hoping it answers some of the questions, and I'm looking forward to a very good discussion all together tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. All right.
Maybe just interject one thing here. Relative to, I heard a couple times misrepresentations.
Yes.
I just want to make sure, is that related to our discussions?
The
Okay, got it.
misrepresentation and the
Okay.
falsehoods were just related to the media.
Got
I mean, you probably, I'm sure you guys have seen it. There was something that was mentioned about 77,000 square acres.
Yeah,
Clearly,
I
that
heard
was
that
never-
one.
That was
You did?
never something.
That's
that
a
we-
big building.
That's
That
a
was
big
the-
building.
That was the Southwest.
Wait, we happy only?
Yeah.
He said it was
77,000
Square
acres
acre.
building.
So there was a lot of misinformation in that document. So we debunked quite a few of them. So
Got it.
does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris Williams?
Good evening. Chris Williams with Bowman Consulting, previously known as McMahon Associates. You may be familiar with McMahon. So we were hired as a traffic consultant for this project. We did prepare a letter, most recently dated September 24th, 2024. Just a little bit of background on the project from a traffic perspective, and I'll walk you through the contents of the letter. So Boron is proposing a 78,898 square foot logistics center along Alice Green Boulevard. It is planned to relocate and consolidate their existing local operations, their storage and customer service operations that exist locally. They're going to be consolidated and relocated to this facility. Those two existing locations are in Newtown Township along Campus Boulevard and also within the Newtown Business Center. So in reality, a portion of the traffic that will be going to this new site exists today. It is traveling in the area today, on the area roads today. So it's really not generating entirely new traffic to the area. So I think that's important. The new facility on Alice Grim Boulevard will typically be in operation from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday. It will have 29 employees. A typical week will include 35 trucks per week. So on average, 7 trucks per day. On average, this would equate to 3 box trucks a day, so like a UPS size truck, and then 4 tractor trailer trucks per day, so 7 trucks per day. And that's over the course of a full day. So in terms of truck operations, the township ordinance does not allow truck idling before 7 a.m. or after 8 p.m., which of course we would honor. We also took a look at the total traffic that might be expected to be generated by the proposed logistics center. And that's based on data published by the Institute of Transportation Engineers, a document that I'm sure you've heard referenced to many times from other traffic engineers. So this data shows that a site like this could generate about 82 vehicles in and 82 vehicles exiting over the course of a full day. Boiling that down to the peak hour, right? So the rush hour in the morning, the peak 60 minutes in the morning, we estimate 25 vehicles in and 8 vehicles exiting in the morning. In the evening rush hour, again, the peak 60 minutes in the evening, we would estimate 10 vehicles in, 26 vehicles exiting. And those are total trips, right? Total vehicles. So, and also remember, a portion of those vehicles are really on the roads today, right? Because we are consolidating existing operations. So that is what we're estimating the total traffic would be in and out of the facility, but we are capturing some of the existing boron traffic that is traveling on the roads today. And those numbers that I'm quoting, that is both, it's mostly passenger vehicles because we only have 7 trucks per day. So those numbers, that's based on ITE data. Those numbers actually align really well with the specific anticipated operations of boron. If you remember, I said they expect 29 employees. So 29 employees, well, the numbers I'm giving you from ITE are 25 vehicles coming in the morning, and then 26 exiting in the evening rush hour, that peak 60 minutes. So that's pretty close to the 29 employees that they're expecting to employ. So the data really lines up very well. So I think this is a very good indication as to the type and the amount of traffic that we expect to generate. So we also took a look at other uses that could be generated on the site, realizing that this site was designed and planned and built and anticipated as a lifestyle center with retail uses. So we took a look at a retail use that could sit on this specific site. The site could accommodate about an 80,000 square foot retail use. So by comparison, a retail use on the same site would generate about 5,439 trips per weekday, about 139 trips in the morning rush hour, and about 418 trips in the evening rush hour, plus additional traffic on weekends, which really isn't relevant to our facility. So by comparison, the logistics center, the proposed boron logistics center, really generates anywhere from 76% to 97% less traffic than what could be generated by a retail use on the same site. And a retail use would generate trucks as well as mostly, passenger vehicles and trucks as well. So significantly less traffic could be generated by the proposed logistics center compared to what could be generated if it were built as a retail use. Just a couple of points here to wrap up. So as part of the proposed boron site, it is planned to open the eastern section of Alice Grim Boulevard where it intersects with West Chester Pike. That has been closed for quite some time. That section of road and that intersection was designed and built, I think, in the early 2000s. And it was planned to accommodate a lifestyle center, right? A much bigger development, a lot of traffic. So looking at the traffic that would be generated by boron compared to what could be generated if it were a retail use. The intersection as designed, as built, there is sufficient capacity to accommodate the traffic from the boron site. This development will not create an adverse degradation to traffic for multiple reasons. One, the roadways, the intersection was designed to accommodate a much larger and more intensive use. And also a portion of the boron traffic is actually on the roads today. So we're not generating entirely new traffic. So with that, we believe from purely a traffic perspective, this is a use that can easily be accommodated without negative impacts to traffic conditions.
I have two questions for you, if I may. Number one, unless I don't remember exactly from last time, what I remember is that it was discussed that there will be no traffic west of the property. And I see on your plan, first one with the templates, there is an exit from the site to the west side of Boulevard.
So my office did not prepare the plans that you're referring to, so that may be better handled by a different presenter. But I believe what you're looking at is probably a plan that just shows the ability of a truck to make those turning movements, but may not be indicative of the anticipated operations. But I would say hold that question maybe for another another presenter.
Perhaps, so then perhaps there should be a note on the plan also to restrict such traffic. The other question is, where do those trucks come from and where do they go the longest distance?
That's probably more of a boron operations question. I'm not privy to that.
No, I
information.
understand. And yeah, my question is actually regarding the size of trucks. So you have, if these are, I don't know, you said these are not your plans, but if these are the right plans, then they limit the size of trucks to WB50, which are not the largest. I wonder if they will be sufficient.
So that I do know. So they are anticipating the trucks to the site, which again, there's 35 trucks anticipated a week. If you average that to 7 per day, those are mostly box trucks, which are the small UPS style trucks like a SU30. And then there are tractor trailers, and those are anticipated as more the 40-foot long body tractor trailer. So we are not anticipating or, do not propose trucks larger than a WB50.
Did you try to run a template of WB50 and it doesn't work?
So I did not. That's another expert, another consultant would have handled that. So I think one of the next consultants may be able to answer that question.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, you seem to have a point. Go ahead.
Do you want me to answer the question?
Yeah, please.
As far as where the trucks are going, they're gonna go back probably either to the turnpike or to the blue route. Some of them are gonna be coming from the airport to us and going back on one of the main highways.
And is
So
that the
it's tough to
same
predict where they go.
traveling that is occurring now?
Correct, that's already
Right.
happening today.
So they travel now, like a tractor trailer travels from the airport and goes to where?
To either our campus boulevard
Goes to
or
Campus
the
Boulevard?
place next to Goodwill, yes.
Just as a note, my question is actually, let's call it for your own good, that if you don't have, if those trucks are not your own, and as you get a tractor trailer coming from the airport, it just happens to be larger than WB50, so you will not be surprised suddenly you cannot handle.
Yeah, we know as far as our transporters, we don't allow, right now, we know we cannot accommodate. We know we won't be able to accommodate that. So we tell them, trucks over 40, that's the rule.
Do you own the trucks?
No, we don't. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
I just asked one question, clarifying question. You had said that traffic would go to the driveway to the west. Is it the driveway to the east? Or
I didn't-
Campus Boulevard?
So I didn't say that at all.
I was just confirming which stretch of campus, I'm sorry, of Alspring Boulevard.
We're proposing to open the eastern section.
Okay, all right, great. Yeah. That's what I thought it was. I just.
Yes.
Yeah, they're not gonna come out here.
Yeah, we're proposing to direct traffic to the eastern section out to West Chester Pike.
Think we're okay for the next one? We may call you back, but
Donnie?
Oh, boy. Yeah, this
Good evening. I'm Dottie Eggs-Dewey, and as Don introduced me, I was a professional land use planning consultant for a number of years, and then I made a little pivot and moved into academia, and I've been at West Chester University now for about 25 years.
Let me pause real quick. Just want to make it, so Nicole, I understand your relationship to this, you're part of the ownership group that owns the property. Fabrice, I'm connected clearly with you. Chris, you're employed, there you are. Rick, same as you. Don, obviously you're the attorney. Dottie, maybe the intent of you being here.
So I have a background in land use.
Are you
and-
employed by them?
No, I'm.
So is this like a third-party advocate to tell us how planning
She's a
should?
consultant, just like Chris is, or.
Okay, I'm just saying the relate is a perspective on the board on how we should look at this.
Sure.
And you
Yeah.
were engaged
Thank
by
you,
ownership?
got it.
I was hired as a consultant.
Okay.
yeah, For land use. And specifically to look at the conditional use standards.
Of the plan that we're looking at that this client brought into the table
Correct.
and your perspective as an expert on it.
As a land use planner.
Understood.
Correct.
Continue.
Thank you. And let me just start by, giving a little larger perspective from a planning perspective. As we all know, we're seeing a lot of changes in the economy today related to e-commerce. And, 20 years ago, we weren't talking about logistics centers because they didn't exist. So every community today, with the rise in e-commerce, is having to grapple with these very different systems of storage and distribution. And, along with e-commerce comes questions and challenges and strategies around supply chain, around logistics, around, complex inventory models and delivery. It's very different from the type of uses we had in the past, where you would have a factory that went to a distribution center, that went to a retail center, and customers would come and buy products. So this is a new phenomenon. It's an evolving space in planning. And so I did a little research to see, how much guidance is there out there to think about what the planning considerations are around these different types of centers. And again, it's an evolving space, even in the academic literature, in the professional planning literature. There is a fairly recent study that was done in New Jersey, where they looked at different types of warehouses and storage spaces and tried to come up with a categorization. And so just to share with you, again, just to give a little context for the center that's being proposed. What the New Jersey State Planning Board came up with is sort of 4 categories of what they called a major distribution center. And those are the very large ones that they said the 500,000 to 1.5 million square feet, large, intense centers, usually located near major interchanges. They distinguished that from what they called a large fulfillment center, which they defined as a center having 150,000 to 500,000 square feet. They mentioned the high cube warehousing distribution centers, which you might be familiar with, which have a very large shell building constructed with steel frame, and usually no smaller than 200,000 square feet. And then their 4th category is what they call the smaller, sometimes we think of the last mile fulfillment center, but the smaller fulfillment centers that are that are the types of centers that need to be located in places like this to help to fit within smaller markets. So the fulfillment center that we're talking about here very much falls into that category of a smaller fulfillment center. And when you're thinking about impacts of these centers, you really have to look at the nature of the use, the intensity of the use in the center. And so the larger centers, they're 24-hour, 7-day operations. They generate a lot of traffic. The smaller centers operate in a very, very different way. But again, not to say that thinking about traffic is not an important consideration. So again, just to give you a little bit of that context. So I wanted to also, in that spirit, give you, a little background on how the use is going to be, how the center is going to be used, the nature of the use itself. So as you know, Boron is a French pharmaceutical company. They specialize in producing homeopathic medicines. They've been active in the US for 40 years. They've been located in Newtown Township for 28 years. Their products are widely available over the counter. They sell their products through Whole Foods, through CVS, Walgreens, and many others. The company leverages e-commerce like most companies do these days, selling through platforms like Amazon, other types of platforms, and they sell from their own website, making their product, trying to make their products easily available online. Again, they've been here for 28 years, as has already been mentioned. They're operating out of 2 facilities today, one on Campus Boulevard, one in the Newtown Business Center, and they have storage and fulfillment operations happening in both of those locations today. So the intent here is to be able to consolidate those uses in one location, be able to have some additional capacity to grow the company, and to be able to operate more efficiently. So the way the logistics center is expected to operate internally, they have a system, so they'll manage product storage, order fulfillment through a process they call pick, pack, and ship. Orders are received electronically. That information, so they use state-of-the-art technology to communicate that information to employees who work on the floor. The employees will go and manually select the items, label them, package them for shipment. And so I just want to emphasize it's state-of-the-art, that they have advanced information technologies to help to manage their operation, but they don't use a lot of automation and equipment on the floor. It's more of a person-centered operation of people picking, packing, and shipping. As you know, Boron has been deeply invested in this community. They employ about 100 people. And many of the employees have been with the company for 14 years. So they are a good employer. They are a good neighbor. And they are committed to sustainability and have been active in the community. Once fully operational, the center is expected to employ, not right away, but eventually will grow to have about 29 employees, 22 on the floor managing operations, and 7 working in the office. The facility will operate Monday through Friday, generally from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. So again, just want to emphasize this is not, it's not a highly intensive use. Okay, so with that, in the ordinance, in looking at the conditional use standards, there are 16 standards, and I won't go into great detail on all of them because some of them have already been addressed. But I'll try to hit on most of them. So this is from section 172-89A. Again, there's a listing of 16 conditional use standards.
Can we put that up on the screen?
May I interfere, just ask a question?
Sure.
So there are 29 parking spaces, and that would be more or less the number of employees, right?
I think there's 36.
Yeah, I think
36
there are
parking
Okay.
36 parking
And you
spaces.
mentioned that there are currently about 100 employees, so I understand the
29.
facility
Not
will not consolidate all the other.
Correct. No, that's an important point. There are about 100 employees total. There will be 29 that will be working in this facility.
So will any of the existing facilities be closed or which will remain? or-
I-
Sorry for interrupting.
No, it's important.
So to answer your question, the facility on Newtown Square on Campus Boulevard will keep all the operations. So you're gonna have marketing, sales, HR, IT, they're gonna remain there. The warehouse that we have there is not gonna be used. We're just gonna do a little bit of repackaging and special projects.
Okay, so you will close that one, not the other one.
Right.
Thank
No,
you.
the other one we close too. The one that we have next to Goodwill, we close as well. So we are taking two logistics center and bringing them under one roof.
So you will have less employees in the new facility.
No, we're gonna move the employees. We're gonna move all the employees in under that roof.
So something doesn't work for me. So between 100 currently and 36 in the future.
100 is everybody who is based out of this Campus Boulevard location. That includes HR, that includes marketing, that includes sales. Those guys are not moving. They are staying exactly where they are.
Okay,
The only people who are moving are the ones that are working in our current logistics center.
all right, thank you. No, I wanted to know if you're going to
No,
close everything else and
Yeah.
others do it. Okay.
We already heard.
Okay.
Okay, there we go.
Make sure we have the right section here. Okay, yeah. Yep. Okay, so the first, 1A, whether the proposed conditional use will have a detrimental effect on the health, safety, comfort, convenience, morals, or general welfare of the public, in particular, the residents in the immediate vicinity of the proposed conditional use. So I would put this into the category of a subjective standard where, I mean, in order to answer that, I think I can safely say that that this use will not have an adverse effect on health, safety, comfort, convenience, morals, or general welfare of the public. But to answer that, I'm going to make reference to some of the more objective standards that are in the list of standards. I think in responding to the objective standards, it'll give some information about the potential impacts and how the impacts are going to be mitigated, and then therefore how I don't believe that the proposed use will have a detrimental effect on health, safety, comfort, convenience, morals, or general welfare of the public. So moving on to B, whether the proposed conditional use and all structures, equipment, and materials used therefore or therein are readily accessible to police and fire protection. So this relates to police and fire protection. The site and the building have been designed to ensure easy access for both police and fire protection. There's the proposed emergency fire lane, which provides access to the rear of the building, ensuring that 3 sides of the structure are accessible, easily accessible for emergency services. The fire lane is designed to accommodate all fire protection apparatus, and there's adequate water supply that'll be available through a water main and fire hydrants along Alice Grim Boulevard. So I think the use is in compliance with that standard. Then C, whether the proposed conditional use will be of such dimension, location, and character as to be consistent with the scheme of the development prescribed by the Township Comprehensive Plan. So I read your comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan is dated to 2016. And so specifically looking at the land use goal of the comprehensive plan, I think that's the one that's most relevant to this application. The goal states to provide for future use of land in a manner that will preserve and restore the community's small town, suburban, rural character and enhance its social and economic vitality. So it recognizes that you need to have the balance of a healthy economy, but recognizing it needs to be balanced with potential impact to the residential neighborhoods. There are then 8 related land use objectives. I think the ones that are most relevant have to do with relating to preserving the character and form of residential neighborhoods. It's very clear in the comprehensive plan that you want to balance growth in a way that's not going to have a large negative impact on residential neighborhoods, protecting residential neighborhoods from encroachment of non-residential land uses, avoiding conflicts from adjacent incompatible land uses, and updating the appearance of commercial uses along West Chester Pike. The site of the proposed logistics center is designated commercial on the future land use map. And it is immediately adjacent to another commercial use to the west. And so the comprehensive plan does not set out or does not set forth any real specific goals or implementation strategies for the property in question. But it does reference the preliminary preliminary development plan that was in place at the time for the site, and states that the township supports the continuation of commercial and office uses in these areas. So it was recognized in the comprehensive plan that this was an area that was appropriate for commercial use. The design of the logistics center within a lifestyle village aligns with the broader goals of the comprehensive plan, particularly in helping to ensure safe pedestrian access to and throughout the township's commercial areas. So again, in some of the subsequent standards I'll talk about, get into compatibilities and impacts on neighboring properties. But I think in general, this proposed use is very consistent with the township comprehensive plan. Okay, so 1D states whether the proposed conditional use will include traffic access ways which are adequate to provide safe ingress and egress to and from the public streets and highways without undue congestion to or interference with normal traffic flow within the township. So
Don, would you mind if we sort of had your witness answer questions and kind of deal with it instead of,
The intent of the,
yeah, I mean,
what are we
I'm not gonna
doing
say
here?
you can't continue.
No, that's fine. The only reason we're doing this is because your ordinance says that we should address these. And this is the
Okay.
way that you address it. A land planner is the person who writes these ordinances.
Right.
And then comments on them. But that's fine if you want to just ask questions and
or if you want me to just highlight
Yeah,
particular
or maybe we get the Cliff Notes version?
bullet points.
Give us your
we-
4
we-
points that are most important.
Yeah, the ones-
Conditional
What I'll do
use
is So
approval.
this one has to do with traffic. You've already heard about traffic, so I think we're okay there. The next one has to do with safe and efficient pedestrian and vehicular circulation within the boundaries of the project. And the way the development is designed, it minimizes interaction with the rest of the lifestyle village, as I think you know, to try to minimize interactions between pedestrian and vehicular traffic. There is then a sidewalk that will connect back to the lifestyle, to the other uses in the lifestyle village. The project is designed with the loading in the back to keep the pedestrian or the employees who work there parking in the front, to minimize that interaction. So I think the design of the project addresses that standard. The next one has to do with adequate drainage and stormwater. So there's a stormwater management plan and best management practices that are being proposed that comply with the township's stormwater management ordinance. Stormwater runoff conditions will be improved over what currently exists on the property. The next standard, which is G, relates to impact on natural resources, streams, lakes, swamps, springs, wetlands, woodlands, slopes, and grades. and trees over 8 inches in diameter. There are some natural features that are on the site. There are wetlands. There's a woodland area, and there are some steep slopes, but the steep slopes and there is some proposed disturbance to the steep slopes, but the steep slopes are man-made, and therefore they're not subject to those disturbance limits. The plan protects a 50-foot riparian buffer around the stream tributary, and the township arborist has affirmed that there are no trees over 3-inch DBH that will be removed or in compliance with that standard. The next standard H has to do with articles or equipment being stored outside or displayed inside where they're visible beyond the property line. No merchandise or items will be stored or displayed outside the building, and anything that's inside will be positioned in a way where it's not going to be visible beyond the property line. The only outdoor activity will involve the loading and unloading of products at the designated docks. In addition, some new landscaping will enhance the property's aesthetic appeal and provide further screening to minimize visibility of the development from adjacent properties. The next one, I, says whether the proposed conditional use will diminish the value of properties adjacent to or in the vicinity of the proposed use. So the things that could potentially diminish the value of adjacent properties would relate to negative adverse impacts, particularly traffic, visual impacts, lighting, and noise. And again, as we talked about, or it has already been presented, the logistics center will have an inconsequential change in traffic conditions. Visual impacts will be mitigated by controls over landscaping and screening. You'll have landscaping on all sides of the building. Lighting impacts will be minimized with the proposed lighting elements of the plan, which comply with township standards. Light poles are proposed to be 20-foot high and will have buffers to minimize glare. There won't be any upward lighting. Again, the lighting is in accordance with the township requirements. Again, I'll emphasize that business operations will occur primarily Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And there won't be any truck deliveries or idling after 8 or before 7. So by minimizing those impacts, there will not be an adverse impact on value of neighboring properties. Okay. J has to do with whether the proposed conditional use is physically suited to the site. So the development has been built to the area and bulk standards that are in the ordinance, which will limit its massing, limit its size. Building coverage is limited to 30% of the property, of setbacks that range from 80 to 150 feet. So by staying in compliance with those standards, the development plan and designing the development in a way that the building improvements minimize impact to wetlands and other existing features. It ensures the development is compatible with the site's topography and hydrogeological characteristics. K, whether the proposed conditional use will cause an unreasonable and substantial interference with the use and enjoyment of properties to or in the vicinity of the proposed use. And again, for a lot of the things that I've already mentioned, the use is not going to unreasonably or substantially interfere with the use and enjoyment of properties in the vicinity. Again, with the controls on operation, the nature of the operation itself, limits on traffic, stormwater management improvements, and the attention to building design, lighting, and landscaping, the center is not going to create undue negative impacts on properties in the vicinity of the use. The next one has to do with compatibility. if the proposed use is compatible with the existing use of the immediate vicinity. As I mentioned, the property abuts another commercial use.
Professor Dewey, excuse me, is it your conclusion that the applicant meets each of the 16 conditions there, and as a consequence, it's consistent with the request for a conditional use? Is that your conclusion?
Yes, I mean, yes, I can go down through all of them.
Yeah, you don't have-
No, 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 no need for
No.
that.
Okay.
But is that where you're going here?
First group I put to sleep, but,
Yeah.
okay.
Your testimony before this commission is that you find that the application is consistent with these standards. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, you have very detailed standards.
Yes,
very
and-
Standards.
And you
say
believe,
that
you believe this application is
It's
consistent
consistent.
with those standards?
Okay,
Got
thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Very well. Ready for the next one?
Yep.
Okay, Rick Stratton. Thanks.
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Rick Stratton. I'm the Director of Engineering at Chester Valley Engineers, and I prepared the plan before you this evening. And I was here back in August as well. Just to sum up, we revised the plan and resubmitted plans right around the end of September. And we received comment letters back. We received one comment letter from the fire marshal and a comment letter from the township engineer in October. So I'll sum up how we revised the plans in response to the comments we got from the first review, plus what we heard from the Planning Commission in August. The main change here is that we verified the wetlands. We applied a 50-foot riparian buffer per the code, and we revised the site layout and the design to honor that riparian buffer. That was really the biggest change that occurred on these plans. The shape of the building changed slightly. Everything was shifted up and away from that riparian buffer. And so the revised plans reflect that. And I would like to go through some of the comments that we received from the township engineer and the fire marshal, if you don't mind. There's 19 comments from the township engineer. I don't intend to go through all 19, but there are 8 here that I think that are important to talk about, and I'll try to go through those pretty quickly.
And we'll assume the rest will comply.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Comment number 2 talks about the zoning requirements in the zoning table. We're going to revise the zoning table per this comment to clearly, provide enough information so that Eric and I can, so that your engineer and I can agree that this complies with zoning. I think there's some data in there that we need to add to just prove our point. And we need to demonstrate that where the existing zoning districts are that are adjacent to this one. There are some residential zoning districts adjacent to this use, and we will show that on an overall plan and present that with our revision. So that's comment number 2. Comment number 3 asks for sidewalks. We'll revise the plan to provide a sidewalk in front of the boron facility. Other sidewalks will be added to Alice Grimm as other portions of the site are developed. But for now, we'll provide a sidewalk in front of the boron facility.
Is there any way to get from the facility to West Chester Pike?
On Alice Green
On
Boulevard.
foot?
Yeah,
on
so
foot.
if an employee takes public transportation and gets dropped off at West Chester Pike and Alice Green Boulevard, they just walk down the street?
That's correct.
Really?
Yes.
That's what's planned, right?
That's what you're planning. I'm
But we
not,
don't,
Yeah.
but based on what we're hearing from the operator, there aren't a lot of employees that take
public
that take-
transportation.
public transportation.
well, that may be true.
At this point, yeah, at this point, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any right now?
Yeah, I think one of the issues is this area, as you know, is not well developed at this point. And you don't really want to encourage a lot of people to walk back there until it gets a little bit more developed. Once it's fully developed, then people are going to be able to walk anywhere they want on any part of it. But it just like you'd like to prevent people, one of the reasons it's blocked off is you don't want people just driving back there and having parties and leaving things in trash. I mean, right now, until you get it a little developed.
But they will be able to drive back there.
Once the system,
Yeah.
yes, that is right. That's right. I'm just
I mean, it's a
saying,
public road, right?
yeah, well,
Will it be dedicated?
it's
Yeah, it will.
it's intended to be dedicated, yes,
I mean, it's a little like Porsche. I mean, they put a sidewalk out there, but it doesn't go
Right.
really anywhere.
right.
And eventually it'll connect and, things will be better.
But
Maybe in our
But-
lifetimes.
they don't connect those sidewalks. He's not the property owner
Right,
or developer of the adjacent.
right. So Porsche
It's
built
kind of
it.
a different project from that standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
Go ahead.
So until we
Go.
until our client has more tenants and we know what the development would look like, it wouldn't make sense to build a sidewalk if you'd have to break it up with various drives at a later date. So we want to build those sidewalks, we want to provide that access, but we think it'd be a poor idea to build them all and then have to come back and chop them up
I see
at a
it.
later date. I'm going to skip to comment number 5, which talks about the exterior of the logistics center
Okay.
building.
Thank you. Go ahead.
We do have renderings. The renderings are the same ones you saw at our last meeting. We really want to get some feedback tonight and understand what our requirements are for trees and sidewalks before we revise that rendering. So the rendering is a good representation of the concept of the building and the site layout. It doesn't show every single tree that we're proposing or the sidewalk yet. We just wanted to have these conversations tonight so that I can prepare a final plan, and then we'll have a rendering right alongside with it, which we would submit for review by your engineer.
Could I just see it again?
Yes, you may. So this is the rendering of the front of the building from Alice Green Boulevard. And
Without the sidewalk.
correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So now that we know that it's not going to be constructed, we'll have the architect represent that on the next rendering that we prepare. And so the shape of the building is here. You see the drive going to the back of the building. Employee parking in the front. You see the employee parking in the front. There is some landscaping shown here, but we can show that more accurately once we arrive at a final determination for the types and number of trees. This is a rendering that we prepared for our previous plan, and we will revise it to reflect the revised plan after this evening.
Will there be a walkway along the front and the side of the building?
Yes, there'll be there'll be an entrance here into the door, and then along this side here, which I think is the eastern side of the building,
Yes.
there will be a walkway right alongside this building, if needed, to provide pedestrian access from the front to the back outside. We don't think that'll be used very much, but
Yeah, your site plan kind of indicates that, that's why I asked.
yes, that will be there, and the revised rendering will depict that as well. Any more questions about the rendering? I'll leave it up here and,
Thank you.
What's the height of the building?
Height of the building,
yes, I think it's 40. Let me just double check my note.
45 feet, it says on the. plan.
44 is the height. Thank you. So in summary, we will revise the rendering after this evening's meeting and submit it for review by the township.
We have a height restriction?
45 feet.
45.
I'm going to skip to comment number 8, and if I skip over one that you feel is important, please speak up. Comment 8 is about how close the stormwater management basin is to the proposed retaining wall in the back of the facility. There's a loading dock area in the back of the facility with pavement, and underneath that pavement is our underground stormwater management. And there's a concern about how close that stormwater management is to the retaining wall. We'll show a retaining wall detail and a design by a registered PE to show the interaction between that wall design and the proposed stormwater. And we will demonstrate that there's no conflict between them. And comment 9 just piggybacks onto that. We will provide signed and sealed wall design plans with the final building permit. Comment 10 talks about the limit of disturbance. I felt that the trees that were being planted did not count as disturbance. And typically that's not how it's viewed. But we also recognize that we're proposing some plantings within the riparian buffer. And we would like to sort of amend our landscaping plan to have more riparian buffer appropriate trees within that buffer. And I've got a list of about 7 trees that we're going to propose, and 3 different shrubs that are both drought and wet weather tolerant, that would really do well in the riparian buffer, so that we can address that comment, and we would submit that for your arborist's review. I'm going to skip to, I'm not going to skip, I'm going to go right to comment number 10 about stormwater management. And this one is really just.
You mean 11?
11?
11?
I'm sorry, yes, comment 11, thank you. We're applying the 50-foot riparian buffer, and we will honor that. And I think there's a little bit of concern by your township engineer about how close our retaining wall gets to that buffer. And our retaining wall design that we will submit will show the base of that retaining wall, and we can present to him how the wall can be constructed without any disturbance to the riparian buffer at all. And so the purpose of a riparian buffer is to protect what's most sacred, which is the wetlands and the stream. The buffer is what kind of gives you that buffer, that protection. So we will show how the wall can be constructed and that the riparian buffer will not be disturbed.
That was a tall wall. How tall is that wall, that retaining wall?
The highest point is 12 feet high.
So so the foundation obviously is pretty substantial. You'll just keep that inside the buffer.
Yeah, it's not as substantial as you might think. I was on the phone with the wall designer this afternoon. It will extend about 6 to 8 inches beyond the face of the wall, but the way these things are built and constructed,
Yeah.
it got some batter back to it. So
What will the wall be made of?
most likely block wall, like an E.P. Henry type wall.
So will there be ties into the soil?
Yes. Yes,
You have
geogrid.
room for that.
Geogrid, yes. As I mentioned, the geogrid will be shown, well, I didn't mention this, but the geogrid will be shown on our final design and show that there's no interference between the geogrid and the stormwater. I'm going to skip a number of comments here pertaining to stormwater management calculations. These are all will comply. And I'm going to skip to 19, which talks about some of the third-party or outside agency reviews. We understand escrow needs to be posted. We have a NIPD's permit currently under review by the Delaware County Conservation District. I do have a will serve letter from Aqua, and we will go through sewer planning as required and prepare the necessary agreements for stormwater and the land developers I'll just mention briefly about the fire marshal letter. His biggest concern was about fire truck access behind the building. We do have an emergency fire lane that will be constructed with a material that will support the vehicle. And we have demonstrated that already. There was some email correspondence back and forth with your fire marshal and a couple weeks ago. So we've already addressed comments 6 and 7 in his letter. But all these other comments from the fire marshal will comply.
So you elected to discuss a number of them, which is fine, but essentially my hearing is it's all will comply.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so just to get that on the record, that it wasn't like 8 were exceptions.
Correct. I just wanted to explain how some of them would be addressed.
No, that's fine.
I have a couple of questions, maybe for you, Eric. There are, what I see, 2 discharge points from your underground stormwater management facilities. At the discharge point, do you feel it is enough protection against erosion? I see you have riprap aprons. Are they sufficient? Because they appear to be quite small. In both cases, where to the extent of the limit of disturbance.
Yes, the flow coming out of our stormwater discharge will be relatively low because most of the water is going to be absorbed in the infiltration basin. So for the storms that are larger in nature, some water will exit our basin and be discharged at the riprap outlet. And that feature has been designed for the flow that comes through there in the larger storms.
And I have one point, which I said earlier about the traffic turning to the west. Will you put a note on the plan to restrict that?
Yes, we can put a note on the plan which says that the site will be accessed from the east side of Alice Grim only. At a future date, that may change, but for this plan for now, yes, I think we're agreeable to that condition.
And then we have an email regarding the wetlands. I think you referred to it. So you've updated you had someone come out and update the wetlands? And
Yes,
So
yes.
what the last one was as of 2019, and they've come out July of this year and sort of re-verified that that plan is accurate?
Correct. He walked the site and verified that the wetlands depicted on this site are accurate per his 2019 delineation.
We'll go to public comment. Most people. Public comment, if you come up, can you give us your name and address? Can you make sure the microphone's on? Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Jim McCauley, and I live at 15 Phillips Lane. So we're the bordering property on the north side of the Borean proposed site. Good evening. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to address the Planning Commission. I stand before you as a representative of our neighbors on Phillips Lane that border the proposed Borean site. As a point of reference, Mr. Dubaton has met with many of the neighbors individually, as well as collectively in a group setting. His focus was always centered around a residential community, while bypassing the relevant discussion regarding the Borean logistics building. The result was disappointing and unsettling, which stimulated us to attend tonight's meeting. We recognize the project has moved forward from the Zoning Commission to the Planning Commission, but would like to be on record to note that we did not receive notice on the proposed zoning change through USPS or any form of certified mail. I may be redundant in some of the things I'm addressing tonight because I realize they've already been discussed, but I'd like to go on record by at least pointing them out because they are a concern to us because of the proximity of our homes. The professor was so kind to mention in the changes in the ordinance that they're going to be protected from noise and light permeation to the property. So we'd like to learn a little bit more about that. So at this juncture, we're deeply concerned, and I'd like to address the following. The location of the building, obviously, it's already where it is, but we could never understand why it was placed there and not more toward a commercial center. The location impact, how is the commission planning on addressing light and noise mitigation? Are there plans for refrigeration or standby generation? Again, noise. The height of the building was addressed. Will there be lights on throughout the night? And if not, for how long will they be on, since it's a 4-story building? 41 feet, I believe. The truck traffic, transportation hours, I believe they've been addressed. But again, you know, when the camel gets his nose underneath the tent, he's moving in. So, could be more noise, could be less noise, but we just don't know that. Work shifts, or is it going to be working 24 hours a day, or the 3 shifts, 1 shift? I'd like to have an answer to that if we could. Are there plans for similar sized buildings to be constructed? The property was touted as a town center, but appears to align more with a light industrial center with the logistics building. How does the logistics building work within the long-term plans for this site? And the last 2 bullet points, proposed road with residential homes and a cul-de-sac is on the plans. We were told the road would not have an ingress and egress on Boot Road, yet it remains on the plan. And we were told that that road was not going to exist, but it's still on the plan. And lastly, buffer zones and proposed property boundaries. How will this be handled? Again, I represent my neighbors who each have different concerns. We tried to summarize it for the sake of clarity tonight. And I ask you to give us time, and we trust in your willingness to address our concerns. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I do have one thing I'd like to hand out, if you don't mind, just as a reference. Be kind enough to give this to you first, because that's on the back of our property, and that's just the staging area currently. Just curious what it would look like when center.
What is the light that we're
Thank you.
seeing right there?
The distance?
No, I'm saying,
Oh, that's the
What-
staging
what
area
is
for a
this?
construction site right now.
I got you,
So
okay,
we're at the top of the hill and we look down onto the site on Phillips Lane.
okay.
So we're on the north side
So
looking
this
down.
is a view from your,
I'm sorry,
this is a view from where?
from the back of our house.
So relative to, I get you. Right now, you're looking at trees and open space. We do have an owner that owns property that is allowed to develop it, and I know you respect that. So we all do recognize that there is some light disturbance that likely is gonna happen
For clarity, we're just asking for consideration.
relative to,
Relative to where we live, noise mitigation, light mitigation, and we, you know, can all coexist together. That's-
no. Got it. Thank you, thank you.
Anyone else?
Evening. I'm Sheila O'Sullivan Feeney at 120 Beechwood Road, Newtown Square, PA. I'm the chair of the Environmental Advisory Council. We are delighted that Boron has taken our advice, and the developer as well, to provide you with a 50-foot riparian buffer. And that's great. We'll be protecting the wetlands, the wildlife corridor. We also want to let the neighbors know that we did address the area of light pollution and sound pollution, and we'll be looking and reviewing the landscaping plans. We asked for additional evergreens to be around any type of generators, to make sure it helps mitigate any type of sound, but that will be part of our review. We know that Boron is a responsible company. We look forward to working with them. And I know what they're doing with their property on Campus Boulevard. They are using solar, they're doing a lawn conversion. So if anyone is going to be looking to develop, we know Boron will be a responsible developer. So we're still reviewing your property. We're looking through your landscape plans. We're going to keep you on your toes, Fabrice, but we understand that they are responsive and they're a good neighbor, and we appreciate you taking the time to listen to our concerns.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there. My name is Mike Lynch. I live at 742 Elgin Road, right there. But I'm also on the advisory board for the Veterans Memorial. It's ideal to kind of be able to pick your neighbor. And I think given the evidence, I wasn't here for the last couple of meetings, but I watched the YouTube videos from August, September. And getting a neighbor that is a clean looking building, good tenant, established tenant, and a land developer that actually cares about the township. That's a win. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when trailer parks were threatened to be thrown in there. I'm not that young, but, no, I mean, for all that could go in there, and I respect the residents' concerns about living next to a commercial district. I have light pollution from Nell, but it's just, I kind of knew that going in. But anyway, I appreciate the role that the planning commission has. I appreciate the adversarial relationship that the township has on toe-to-toe with Don and myself. But I hope that the planning commission can recommend approval. Thanks.
Wade Pollock, 108 Ridgefield Road. I'm the chair of Parks and Rec, and Boron has supported many of our community events. Thank you.
Thank you. Then we have one email I'll read. I'm just going to read it verbatim, so I'm not going to shorten it. Dear Mr. Sullivan, Planning Commission members, it's from Paul Seligson. Many of you will know him, the regular here. I'd hoped to attend tonight's meeting, but I have tickets. Originally, I was worried about the 40-foot riparian buffer request, but I understand that now it's changed to 50 feet and the entire building moved a bit further away from Reese's Run period. I'm content. There's stories circulating about outdoor pickleball courts that are being contemplated. That would be great. I'll leave the rest, but that was.
Thank you, Paul.
Put that into the minutes.
Thank you,
Yes.
Mr. Selig.
I would call the product, what's called the investment market last mile. Businesses are getting small places where they can, be nimble and deliver. On the conditional use, I'm inclined to have a requirement, and I'm speaking for myself, that at all times the property is a single occupant, it's not multi-tenant, and not worried about you, but Walgreens is closing, banks are closing, Rite Aids are closing. You could be bought by someone who's got a different facility. So a condition, so that each new user would need to come in and get conditional use. And part of my motivation for that is for many users, there's inadequate truck parking. This is designed for their custom use. And we don't want parking on the streets. So I would want to add that to the conditional use component of tonight's discussion. I think it just protects, and I'm not sure, I don't think it limits anything for the tenant, but I think it protects the township on an ongoing basis.
Makes sense to me.
Don, what is your intent, Mr. Pedrosa? What is your intention tonight? Are you proceeding, or I've heard Mr. Stratton indicate that modifications to the plan are required? What are you asking?
We would like to proceed. We're asking for a recommendation on the conditional use and the land development when we get to that. I think what he was saying is that we're probably going to have some more interaction with the township engineer with regard to the landscaping and maybe some of the other township committees, so that what's on the plan right now probably will not be the final landscape plan. There'll be some changes, but we think that's the kind of issue that is best resolved outside of the public meeting with the interaction, with some suggestions from the township and our showing them what we would propose to do. So that's a typical kind of loose end that gets cleaned up, post planning commission quite often.
Subject to the agreement that they have a follow-up discussion with the township
Yeah.
on the landscaping type thing. Yeah.
And, because we're gonna want the, the arborist to take a look at it as well, John Hosbach.
You're still waiting for the county.
Yeah,
to-
I was
to-
gonna say, the county hasn't signed off.
The conservation district.
Oh, correct.
Oh, the conservation district, that's correct, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
We're in technical review right now. I envision by, January, we would have some resolution to our NIPD's permit.
Have you been in back and forth discussion with them already, or
Yes.
you're waiting for?
Yeah, we've been through one administrative review already, and now we're on to technical review.
So you have not yet received any technical review from them?
Correct.
So you don't know exactly if they want to make any significant change?
We don't, but we're pretty confident in our design, and sometimes their administrative review does get into some technical issues and nothing has come up.
Eric, what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, obtaining the MPDS permit is usually a process that continues on, yeah, even beyond the township's approval. And really that leans to the, like ENS, erosion sediment controls, during construction that be required as part of the MPDS. And then just, far as the advancement of the project, if the recommendation is given here, the applicant is still then subject to the, public hearing that would be held before the Board of Supervisors for the conditional use and the consideration of the plan.
Correct.
You may also want to add the conditions if you're so inclined to comply with the current lighting and noise ordinances that we have in effect.
Wouldn't that naturally
I
be,
want that
in-
go without saying.
or you just want to reiterate?
That's true, but there was a concern raised by a resident.
And if you, again, if you made that a specific, condition, then that could be addressed, at the hearing before the board.
Before we move forward, would there be any language or communication that you could provide relative to noise and light pollution to accommodate in any way? Additionally?
To be honest, I'm not familiar with the requirements of the new ordinance, but we'll have to comply with the ordinance, if it's an ordinance that's in effect. What was that enacted,
Both the lighting and the noise standards are probably, I'm gonna say 2 to 3 years old. I don't have it off the top of my head.
I would say that applies to.
Yeah.
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 Will there be any outside generators?
There's a generator.
Well, then those generators will have to be protected against noise, obviously.
Noise suppression.
Is that in the back?
Where is it?
It's in the rear.
It's on the other side, West Chester Pike side.
Okay. We have, you want
Here, right here.
to name and address, please?
Nick Nancy, 88 Boot Road. I border the property, specifically on the noise. I'm personally concerned with the beep, beep, beep that you may hear from forklifts, from trucks backing up. And although it's only 7 trucks, it could be a lot of forklifts loading box trucks. And if you're sitting in your backyard hearing beep, 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 I think I don't know where that fits into the ordinance, but that specifically, as well as motors, compressors, anything that may generate a sound would be of concern to me, and I'm sure my other neighbors. So I just want to go on record with that.
What's your feeling? Yeah, like.
You mentioned before, what are the operating hours of the facility?
7 a.m. to
Subject
8
to the
p.m.
noise and light.
And so a
that's the
truck
thing
could
that
be
bothers
delivering
me,
at
but-
7 p.m., 7:45 p.m.
You want to give them. Additional use approval
Okay.
subject. And so, do NPDS permits. that they still are waiting to.
No.
And with the understanding that
UPS.
it would be noise and light. Yeah, I got noise and light,
Yeah.
single tenant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot to clean up. My. Hold on.
Does he?
Yeah, please come in.
Is there a way that you could present to us or have us, not necessarily for approval, but at least have a discussion about how you're gonna have noise mitigation and light mitigation? I mean, there's certain things you're gonna do. There's a lot of discussion because we can hear this now, even with the contractors down there. And we only have one Haynes and Kimball house, you know, and they're not working all the time. So if someone's gonna be in the facility and the site all the time, then it's gonna be a different, you know, different tonality, different light, so.
Well, we have codes related to all those issues. They've committed to complying with those codes. I can't speak for them, but they seem amenable to if you said, you know, it's just still a little bit, I'm betting they put a bigger evergreen in front of it if necessary.
Yeah.
You know, our hands are sort of, you know, we've got to apply the rules and regs that the township has.
I think more specifically, we're interested in a buffer, you know, I mean, between our property line and what's gonna happen on the Borean property, so.
I appreciate your comments, I do. When you said you were adjacent to this property, there's other property in between the inside.
We sit on the top, we sit on the north side.
I know, you
On
can
Phil's
see it on
line.
the zoning.
Yes.
Yeah. And just below us is a proposed cul-de-sac with, you know.
And they were talking, and they still are talking about, they were talking about getting rid of that road, the Fox Trail Road that it's shown on the zoning map. I know there was some discussion about building a berm, and I think they were still canvassing the neighbors as to who was in favor of it, who might be opposed to it.
Is that a paper street today?
It is a paper street.
Oh, okay.
It is.
They can't canvass us more than we have already.
But
We've
if-
already
but-
given
but
our
they-
heart and soul.
Are the neighbors generally in favor of that, of the berm?
Well, we want some buffer on our property line because we do sit up high. If you put the tree down, the buffer is down, we put the curves on that road. We're looking the whole.
I think that's why my client thought a berm was a good idea, and they're working on that and talking to the neighbors.
Well, the code contains certain requirements regarding separation between different zones.
Right.
You know, residential zone and commercial zone. And it doesn't mean that you need to block any light or sound way beyond that distance.
It is going to change.
Are you making a motion?
I'm trying.
Okay.
Do your best.
And I'm asking, you know, I'm not saying your point's up, but I kind of think that's more part of the second part, which is the design and the plan as opposed to just the use. And
Yes, yes, I agree.
So, okay, so we're working on the first component. We have our best man on.
Yeah, you think. You think. Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion for the Planning Commission to support the conditional use request and to recommend the approval of the preliminary and final land development plan as presented to this commission.
I think we need two.
You have to do it separately?
Yeah, we're doing two.
Okay, let's make it easy then.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion for the planning commission to recommend, actually to support the conditional use application to the Board of Supervisors, subject, based on this application by Joy4, you'll forgive me, by Joy4, subject to certain additional recommended conditions to be imposed, including that the use of the property be subject to a single tenant at all times, and that if any other different use, that it have to come back for an additional conditional use approval. That also, that certainly that it would comply with all requirements of the township codes, including each of the requirements outlined in the township's engineer's letter of October the 18th, 2024. I understand that there is some further discussions to take place with regard to compliance with those provisions, and it seemed that most will comply, and I would suspect that hopefully that would be resolved between now and whenever you go before the Board of Supervisors. Hopefully those conditions can be met. Am I missing anything else?
Work for you?
With acknowledgement to the
Yeah.
light and noise mitigation.
Well, I think we did that, right?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
you.
So now the second part,
Preliminary and final land development.
right, so I know we have at least one comment about the hours of operation, you wanna?
Oh, we already asked about that.
I thought we did.
Okay.
Yeah,
And we're good with that. I'm just trying to.
I guess.
Maybe
and-
before you get started, the hours of operation,
7
re-articulate
AM to 8 PM.
7 AM to 8 PM.
It's not a 24-hour operation.
No,
No,
So it
you're
won't
not
be-
getting a delivery at 8, you're just still sorting
Yeah,
and
that's what I asked
doing
about.
whatever you do.
Do you want to put a restriction
I
on
want
the
a
plan?
restriction that it can't be a 24/7 operation.
Yeah, but I think that's fair.
Yeah.
As a conditional use condition?
I mean, single
Yeah.
tenant,
Yeah.
not 24,
Yeah, I think I
Yeah.
would amend the conditional use.
yeah.
Subject
Sorry,
to the
Paul.
business.
No, that's
hours.
okay. No,
Yeah.
I think that makes sense there.
Do we have a second on the amendment?
I'll second.
To no 24 hours? Or
I'll second.
7 to 8, 7 AM to 8 PM is what we're specifying,
I'm not specifying a time
just not
necessarily.
20,
7
Maybe-
AM to 8 PM,
no later than 8
no
PM.
later than 8 PM, and not 24.
So, second,
Yeah.
all in favor, say aye to the
Aye.
amendment? Aye. Opposed?
So now I'll make a motion for the planning commission to recommend the approval of the proposed land development application, which is seeking both a preliminary and final. And this recommendation, believe it or not, will be conditioned on the conditional use approval first being obtained
Go ahead.
for the purposes of approving the development presently before the commission, subject, of course, to the arborist letter, subject to the engineer's compliance, subject to the fire marshal's requirements,
Delaware County
And PBS.
Conservation.
Delaware County Conservation District, and God willing, conditional use approval before the Board of Supervisors. We would recommend this development both on a final and a preliminary and final. And I think to the extent that you require a waiver of that, I would request that would be included.
And I would like to add that requirement, that a note on the plan to restrict the traffic to the west side.
Be only on the east side.
East side.
Right, east side ingress and egress. So moved.
Second,
Second,
all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thanks for your time. Are you coming in with the squash Cadell thing?
Actually, somebody else is representing it. It's the operator that's got it from.
Oh, I know Cynthia. I play squash with him. He's better than I
He's a
am.
nice guy.
Oh, yeah.
It's nice to see that it's nice to see something that's lifestyle oriented there.
We're still on.
I guess yeah, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I fumbled that.
Started chit chatting.